Hello, and welcome to this divine masculine check-in for masculines with Gemini, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, or Mars. I've gone ahead and pulled the cards ahead of time for saving time and memory my phone, so we'll just go ahead from here. What I pulled first is a card to look at the energies that Gemini DMs are currently in, and what we have here is the prayer card, which is associated with the word hope. And what it suggests to me is that Gemini masculines right now are very much in an introspective state, but Spirit has been calling them to learn how to have communication with the divine in the first place. And I'm getting the sense that a lot of these masculines, this is a new thing for them completely. Like, sure, they may have said their prayers when they were in like really dire situations, but well, maybe that's it. They associated prayer as when you're just asking for something rather than having a two-way communication with spirit, with the divine. And right now, they're really in that energy. Some of them by forced seclusion, and others by choice. And I pulled some cards. I made these cards. They're divine guidance cards and give us a little bit of extra insight as to what's going on. And what we got for the current energies for Gemini DMs is, if you don't wake up and attend to your karmic lessons, the universe will continue to close in on you until you're uncomfortable enough to change for good. And your own resistance is blocking the connections you desire most. And more than likely, the connections that these Gemini DMs really desire most are with their divine feminine. However, it could also be, being Gemini, they probably desire some meaningful friendships and meaningful work and meaningful connection with their families, kids if they have them, things like that, to have, especially with Gemini. If you look at any of my videos about the signs, Gemini tends to, especially in Sun, Moon, Rising, comes with a theme of dealing with people that are duplicitous. And so I'm getting the sense that a lot of Gemini divine masculines are feeling really like they're missing genuine connections in their lives, and they're really starting to notice, that they have not really been very genuine or authentic, and so they're asking the universe to help them learn how to communicate better, how to stand in their truths. And the card that I pulled over here is for the lessons and energy that Spirit's going to put them through through the end of May. And what we have is the birth card, which is associated with renewal. It's kind of like the death card in tarot. And in the picture we can see what looks like a hawk flying out of an egg, so it's not a little baby bird coming out of the egg, it's like fully grown, popping out of there, kind of a metamorphosis, if you will. And there's a seed that has a plant rising out of it, and there's a child in the picture, and what I'm getting the sense of is that Gemini divine masculines, that Gemini's already pretty associated fairly strongly with that sense of childlike wonder. In Western astrology, I have a Gemini rising, so I'm well aware of that, and I have plenty of friends and family who have lots of Gemini energy, and it's definitely associated with that playfulness. And I'm getting the sense that a lot of these Gemini DMs have been disassociated with their playful side. And Spirit is really calling them to get reconnected with that, with their inner being, that the being that is inside that egg, and allowing it to lead rather than their egos. And the divine guidance cards that we got with that birth card is advice from Tiger. Some attributes are weaknesses in some situations and strengths in others, like tiger stripes. If you're feeling out of place, go exploring, which is a card that I made to say, if you're a tiger standing in the middle of a concrete street, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. But if you're in a jungle or a forest, you're going to blend in very, very well. And so there are some situations where, like, say, assertiveness is a strength, and other situations where it's a weakness. And there are some situations where having a sense of well, I mean, I think all situations are kind of strengthened by a sense of childlike wonder, but there are times when, trying to be overly playful can cause problems. Maybe being bratty, things like that. But there are times when that can also be a strength. And I think for these divine masculines, a lot of them are caught up in karmic situations, whether third party or not, it could be internal, but they're caught up in situations where they're beating up on themselves for what feels like weaknesses, and Spirit is really calling them to look at it and say, look, your flaws and your strengths are, they may be weaknesses in this situation, or these people that you're with may see them as, well, as things that they don't like, but that doesn't mean that you are bad. It doesn't mean that they are bad. And instead of taking their word for it, instead of getting into a state of self-pity, it's time to go exploring and see, where you actually fit in. Like, stop trying to make yourself fit in with people that don't like you for who you are. Go exploring. Find your people. Find your tribe. And the other card that came with that one is receptive mode is the answer, which, is related to law of attraction, and it very much fits in with that, If a lot of these Gemini divine masculines have not been very receptive to things. They've just been looking at, well, this is what's in front of me, and this is how life is, and so I just got to make it work, and I'll just close myself off whenever it doesn't feel like it fits, and open myself up when it feels like it does, and if it sucks all the time, it sucks all the time. And Spirit's trying to say, no, 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 no. It can be so much better, and you deserve it to be so much better. And the only thing holding you back from having everything you want, possibly including your divine feminine, is that you don't feel like you're worthy of it. And you're not approaching things from a state of childlike wonder. And if you go back to that, you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed how many things can feel like miracles to happen when you get yourself into receptive mode. I also pulled some cards over here. I know they're a little bit out of camera range. I can't seem to get my camera to do the full scope of this tiny table. But I pulled some cards over here to look at what Gemini DMs have been going through in this last week. And what we got is the Devil, the Ace of Wands in reverse, which is associated with power, the Four of Pentacles reversed, and the Ace of Swords. So what we're looking at here, I mean, we've got two aces, and with the Ace of Wands in reverse being associated with power and sitting with the Devil, what I'm getting the sense of is that was a... What I'm getting the sense of is for a lot of the masculines, the Gemini DMs, is that they got into a karmic third-party situation, and it was mostly sexual. And they thought that they could make it work. They were kind of in a... Well, they were in a very narcissistic state, and they were not worried about what the outcomes would be. And then they got to a point of going, you know what, I really do want relationship, and let me see if this can work. But because it was a relationship they manifested because they felt powerless, and they wanted to try to take control. I'm sensing a lot of these divine masculines even were not being divine at all when they jumped into this. And many of them may have even gotten into it to try to be vindictive towards their divine feminines, and they now are being hit with that karma, and that new beginning is stagnating. It's not going anywhere. Even the sexuality that they had, either it's not there anymore, or the karmic or the masculine have decided to take their sexual energy to other places, or it's just faded away and they don't have that connection with each other anymore because it wasn't genuine love, it was limerence, and they're really starting to feel the loss of that inspiration and intrigue and spiciness and all the things that they thought were going to stick around as the relationship went on aren't there. So that new beginning is, for lack of a better way to put it, and because of that happening during this, mid-May, they're now in the Four of Pentacles reversed area, which, Four of Pentacles in upright is already kind of it's a very miserly card. It's about overly focusing on your pentacles, being workaholic, being very guarded, having very rigid boundaries, and in reverse, it's having your boundaries violated, and not necessarily dropping your boundaries, still really rigid boundaries, but I mean, like, you know, look at in this card, it's a castle, and there's like one tiny, tiny little door, and maybe a few tiny little windows up in the turrets, but really, there's no looking in, there's no looking out. It's already pretty desolate land, and in reverse, you know, it doesn't look much better, you know, and so what I have the sense of is that Gemini DMs for the last couple of weeks or mid-May have been very guarded, and DFs, if you've been noticing kind of with a withdrawal or a guardedness from your masculines who have strong Gemini placements, you know, it's likely that that's why, like, the obsession and what they thought was a strong commitment from the devil card is they're really starting to feel like they made a deal with the devil rather than having some sort of, you know, hot and spicy arrangement that they thought would really work out. And now, you know, as this last part of May begins, the Ace of Swords is there. And in this deck, it's doom. And what I'm sensing there is that is a new beginning, and it's a positive one in the sense of it's a new beginning that is truthful, that is honest. It's not necessarily a positive new beginning in the sense of, like, your masculine might not be, you know, in a celebratory mood, or they might be hurting even over what these truths are, but it is definitely, you know, this last week they've gotten to a point to where they're either no longer able to hide from the truth, or they're getting to a space where they're not wanting to hide from the truth anymore. They're wanting to be who they are. They're wanting to be with people who are genuine and authentic, and they're really feeling the pain of having jumped into whatever karmic arrangement they're in, whether that's, you know, a romantic relationship, a roommate situation, whatever it is that they jumped into. They're feeling their boundaries have been extremely violated. They're not feeling like the kings of their castles, and the truth is really hitting them hard. And I'm really getting drawn into the fact too, like the feminine in this card with a you know, a king, a masculine, with the skull there on a little pike to the side, that's how masculine's feeling right now. Like, he's really just been reduced to kind of this prop in the situation that he's in, and that his karmic is holding all the cards, and he's not liking it, and he sees the truth of it, and he feels really caught up in it, and he's ready for a new beginning, an honest one. Although, you know, depending. And it's funny, too, because, so these cards that I pulled here are for what is coming up, what is most likely coming up for Gemini DMs as the end of May, you know, comes about. And what we're seeing here is Page of Pentacles, Queen of Wands, reverse Three of Cups, Page of Wands, and the Two of Pentacles reverse. And, I mean, right off the bat, Page of Pentacles, that's kind of its own new beginning in a way. It's a very small start. You know, the pages they're still very immature. They're still kind of just dipping their toes in, planting a couple of seeds. They often get distracted with different things. And so I'm seeing these Gemini masculines more so they're either trying to refocus on career stuff and material stuff, or they've been doing that and they're going to try to do that again. And Spirit's really like, no. You're like, yeah, you do need to get your pentacles in order, but you're too focused on materialism. You need to focus on that playful energy, plant the seeds of healing and of love and things of that nature. And I pulled some cards to give us a little bit of clarity about it too. And so for this Page of Pentacles, we got the Star. The Star is really, I mean, it's definitely a healing card. It's about enlightenment, and in this card, in this particular card, I like it because it's got a griffin in there, and so it's really about our myths, our myths that we tell ourselves, and our stories that we tell ourselves, and so I'm getting the sense that some masculines are going to continue trying to focus on materialism, but it's going to help them, you know, learn about their belief systems and how that is holding them back. And with Queen of Wands in here, I mean, this could be the karmic or this could be divine feminine. Typically, Queen of Wands is associated with divine feminine, but it, you know, it's a feminine figure, whether male or female, who is they're very self-possessed, and they're very in touch with their sexuality, and they're very heart forward, and they're the queens of manifesting. You know, they want it, they get it, and they are very cat-like, you know, black cat in there. They're very, you know, I'll take myself out when I want to go out, and I'll come back in when I want to go in, and hey, you're sitting in my chair, you know. And, you know, what I'm really getting the sense of is that these Gemini DMs are they're really still going to try to be focused on their money and their career stuff. And it's an immature move. And because they're still focused on that, and rather than being open to different situations, they're also going to find themselves still wrapped up in thoughts of their divine feminine. And what we got for clarity on that one is the Five of Cups in reverse. And so, like, they're attempting to use their careers, their money focus to get away from thoughts of their divine feminine, but it's not working. It's actually backfiring. And Spirit is, you know, as card set up there, the current energy going on, Spirit's like, nope, if you're going to, you know, you asked for this healing, and if you're going to keep focusing on shallow, superficial things, then we're going to work together as your benevolent guides and allies to continue putting you in such uncomfortable situations that you are forced to change, you know, and you're going to wallow more. You're going to feel like crap more. You're going to keep kicking over your cups and then feel even worse that you kicked over your cups until you stop and you turn around and you see that you have that Two of Cups. Your divine feminine's waiting right there for you. And with the... Okay, so typically the Three of Cups in upright is a very joyous card. It is one of the joy cards in the deck. And it can often symbolize either a reunion or a third-party influence. What I'm getting a sense of is kind of twofold, that it's both third-party and it's kind of a break in the friendship and communication between Gemini DMs and their feminines. And I'm getting the sense that that is happening because the karmic is either aware of divine feminine, or they already were and they're feeling threatened by them, or something else is going on that's causing them to feel combative. This is the Eight of Swords in this, and I like it because in the typical deck you see the woman with the blindfold on and her hands are tied, and she's, you know, kind of being led to intuitively guide herself out of the situation. And in this one we see Alice with a bunch of flamingos and she's just trying to bat them away. It's a very similar thing, that she could just walk away from the situation. And I'm getting the sense that this is both Gemini DMs and the karmics. It's also the feminines, and when thinking about it, you know, there are all these different thoughts and anxieties and traumas and things that are all around, and all three of you are caught in this cycle of trying to stand in the middle of all of these things and bat them away and complaining about how they're all sitting right there instead of just walking away. Just walk away. Just leave the flamingos there. If you don't stand in the middle of them, they're not going to peck at you and bite you, you know. And if where you're standing doesn't feel good, go exploring. Find a new place. Be open to new opportunities. Now, unfortunately, because these two cards are here, I'm getting the sense that Divine Feminine's kind of going to follow that, especially those of you that have been doing your healing work. But divine masculine and their karmic are likely to continue, standing in the middle of effectively of a circus or a zoo where all the animals have been let loose, where rather than saying, okay, let's work together one by one and get the animals back into their habitats and lock the door, instead they're standing around, with trash can lids and sticks trying to fight off not only the animals but each other. And this is causing a difficulty in the friendship between divine femme and divine masculine, but it's also causing huge relationship difficulties and difficulties with the masculine at work. It's a continuation of this, If you don't learn your lessons, Gemini DMs, Spirit's just going to continue to crunch down on you until you are uncomfortable enough to change. And what I do see, however, is, by the end of May, because we have the Page of Wands and the Two of Pentacles in reverse here, with our clarifier as the Five of Wands in reverse, what I'm getting the sense of is that divine masculine is... Gemini divine masculines are... they're not quite done juggling, so to speak. They're still trying to, by the end of May, they're still going to be trying to get... I want to say I think a lot of the Gemini DMs that I'm being called to read for right now have been able to effectively use work and other people's problems to escape their own self-growth and kind of ignore what's going on around them and the situations and messes that they've got themselves into, and that's not working. But they're so desperate to avoid having to face their own inner demons that they're still trying, but it's not working. In reverse, this is delays, and it's like, because the infinity symbol in there, it's an indefinite delay on money and things of that nature. And the Page of Wands, I mean, it's another page, it's an immature energy, and he might be attempting to communicate some of this to you. He might be attempting to... I'm getting the sense that some of these Gemini DMs are going to be telling their karmics, like, no more. No more. I'm not juggling this. I'm not paying for that. I'm not taking you there. But they're not ending the situation either. They're still kind of fighting it. Or maybe they've been juggling their DFs and the karmic, and they're not changing that at the moment. They're just kind of continuing on into what they're doing, but it's continuing to make more and more messes. Because this Five of Wands in reverse is drama, conflict, things. It's kind of it's kind of like the Tower card, except for whereas the Tower is like a big earthquake that knocks over an unstable structure, instead it's like having... it's like going and laying bricks to build a tower, where somebody comes around behind you and keeps pulling off bricks and tossing them at you, making the job extremely complicated and unnecessarily complicated. And that's going to be frustrating for them. We'll have to see what happens in the June reading that I do later to see what comes of that. But that, to me, is really playing upon what Spirit is trying to tell them. Like, this is going to continue to get more and more uncomfortable if you don't do your healing work. Now, I pulled some of these cards that I made, which are messages from your person. So this is for divine feminines who are watching and wanting a little bit of communication from them, either if you're in no contact or they're not being very communicative. So what we got is, no matter what it seems like in reality, it's not over. I'm coming back to you, praying during this silent separation that you're still waiting for me. And I'm using drugs and alcohol to numb out how I'm feeling. I spend all day lost in jealous visions of you with someone else. It's driving me crazy. And I'm not mad, I'm heartbroken. So, and I'm getting a lot of tingles on that. I'm really getting the sense that at least some of these divine masculines are really acknowledging how they're feeling, but they're not ready to talk about it just yet. And they're still using addictions, alcohol, drugs, things like that, work, to try to avoid having to face the consequences of what they've done. And there's something that happened. I mean, it's likely a separation, but I'm getting the sense that some of you divine femmes may have said, hey, look, you know, I know you're on your healing journey and all, and I'm here for you, but I'm not waiting for you, which is good, you know? Like, when the timing is right, you'll come back together, and in the meantime, you don't know how long it's going to take, and clearly these, you know, Gemini DMs that this reading is for, they might be a while. I mean, it could be a quick turnaround, but they might be a while. And it could even be that what they needed as a kick in the pants as a part of that, you know, spirit closing in around them so that they'll truly change is you, divine femme, saying, I'm not going to wait for you, you know? And some of you could have been waiting months, years, more, maybe even longer. And you don't need to wait for them. You work on you, you know? And even if you haven't done that, it could have been that something that you've done has been perceived as that. Maybe while they're wrapped up in this situation and being kind of cowardly about getting out of it, they're assuming that you've moved on, even if you're waiting. Or maybe they've seen you chatting with somebody and they're just getting wrapped up in their thoughts about you interacting with somebody else and being taken by the time that they've learned their lessons and that they've come around. And the idea of that is causing them to feel heartbroken, and they're not very good at, well, they're scared to communicate it, and so it's coming out sideways, and they might be acting like they're mad, and when they're really not. They're just heartbroken. Well, all right. I think I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. It's looking like for the end of May for Gemini DMs, we've got a lot of truths being hidden, some of them coming out, and a lot of lessons still to be learned, so let's hope that these Gemini DMs can get things on track soon, especially because June is a really fun summer month. It would be nice to see some more reunions happen, or more unions and reunions happen, especially for playful sign Gemini. Well, all right, as always, if you resonate or have any feedback, please leave it in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you in the next reading. Thanks so much.